So our next speaker is a very, very passionate senior leader. She is a director of engineering at OLX. Aniela Crisan is a software developer by training, but she knew from the beginning that she wanted to be a leader and that she is able to grow fantastic teams. And she's going to share her knowledge here, and she's going to share her insights about team-driven development. Please all give a very warm welcome to Aniela Crisan. Thank you so much for coming today.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ready for some TDD? So don't worry, don't take out your laptops yet, because we are not going to talk about test-driven development, but we are going to talk about other type of units, not unit tests, but a unit. It's a team inside the organization, like a small unit inside the organization. And why of that? Because we want to talk about how to build the foundation for excellence. So, a bit about myself. So, almost 10 years ago, I moved from Cluj to Lisbon, to Portugal. And I joined the OLX group, the company, when the team was super small, was only Portuguese-based at the time. And it was a hackathon day. And I remember that because almost all of the team was having lunch over with a pizza. Well, maybe it wasn't really one, because Portuguese pizzas are not that big, but you get the picture. So we were around 15 people, and I was the first foreigner and also the second woman in the team. But who is actually OLX Group? So in that year, it was acquired and it became part of the group. And this company, like for the ones that are in Romania, maybe you know it from some of the brands that we have here locally, but because we have around 20 different brands across the globe, it's mainly about creating trading platforms and enabling, buying cars or goods or other real estate and other things or other type of things. And my team, it's here, it's the motors ecosystem. So we are now enabling car buying and selling. That this is not the best experience that usually you have, especially with used cars. But then we also enable this by the click of a button. So now you can go in Poland, at least, you can go in one of our sites, you can click on a button and then you get delivered the car to your door. And we also started to invest in other opportunities. So, for example, we looked at ownership. And during the ownership time, you have car parts. So we started to invest also in this business. So that means that the team grew a lot, the business grew a lot, and we had really to change a lot, and we had to adapt to be in this stage of more mature like that we are. Still not like the super scale up, but we are still like a way different where we were before. And what we learned during this journey is that what gets you here won't take you further. So after each stage of this growth, we had to stop, we had to look, we had to learn, and then to adapt and to build another organization to move us forward. And where did we start? We start with individuals, because motivated individuals can help you grow. Like they are highly adaptable, they embrace change. And then we started to think, but also what does motivate the individuals? As Daniel Pink famously said, individuals are motivated by autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So those are the three things that we started to keep in mind whenever we were building the next organization for the future. But during this time, we had to switch perspectives a lot. So from having like a big picture in mind and then going deep into some specifics of the topics, or like looking for long-term decisions or investments, but then also for the short-term gains. And what was our approach? We looked at this again from different perspectives. So first, as usually, we start with people because we put people first. And what do people need? They need a purpose. How can we create this purpose? By creating a vision that is inspiring of the future. But that's not enough. How can we connect the people with the vision? We set up the organization in a way that can execute on the vision. So this is like just one example that we did. We wanted to have an organic way of growing. So we also wanted to be customer-centric because customers only care about the products, they don't care about the team and how we are structured. We wanted to optimize for autonomy, so the people can have autonomy on the space where they operate. We also wanted to optimize for impact rather than output. So this is how we did it. Like we split into different set of customers. We left some space for innovation or for exploring something new, like other type of businesses. But then we also set up like a capabilities team that actually their customers is not the end customers that are buying or selling cars, but they are the internal customers. So those are like the enablers for the rest. How did we connect with the purpose? So each team is creating their own metrics. They are defining their North Star metrics, they are defining KPIs, they are defining health metrics. So at each level, they are empowered to define that as long as they are connected to the customer that they are working on. So by this, they are outcome driven and they are really managing their output. They are defining their output based on the outcome that they are having. And of course, now in the hackathons, we don't have pizza. We have lots of them. And thanks God for food delivery because we cannot have it all at the same time in the same place. Of course, we have to invest into people development because it's very, very crucial for us. So there are like many things that we did, but for example, when a new person joins a company, we had to invest into onboarding process because we want them to feel part of the team right away. We want to reduce the stress of learning or connecting to the other team. We want to have like very clear defined milestones of what they want to be reached. We helped the students to have their first job, so we created internship programs. We wanted to make sure that the people have a place to grow, so then we also structured the internal promotions in the team. But I will go through one of them, that this was like one of the big questions, is how can we hire? Because if the team is growing, if the business is scaling, also we have to hire more people. And the thing is that we had to hire for multiple teams, we had to hire fast, and then we also wanted to have like a consistent bar across the organization. So either if that was going up or was staying the same, we need to have the same consistency. So for that, we put in place a global hiring process because we wanted to hire and develop the best, because we wanted to have a process where everyone can contribute and the candidate experience is similar or for everyone. So if you are in a team, this is pretty easy because you define what you want. But if you want to hire for multiple teams and you want to have the same bar, we had to really think it very, very differently. So, for example, one of the things that we did, instead of hiring manager to hire for one team, they were hiring for one role. So, I don't know, we have like hiring managers for SREs or for front end or for back end. So they really know how to improve that candidate experience for that role. They really know how to hire the best. And we are removing the bias of hiring some nice to have that might benefit their own team, but not the whole organization. But then the people are inside the company, and how can we help them grow? Some of them would like to grow on the expert track, some of them would like to grow on the managerial track, but we also want to help them to define the right training for them. So for that, we put in place a career framework. So they have the options to move on either of the tracks, and they also have the options to move lateral between those steps. And for each of these roles, we defined the set of capabilities, but then also what is expected for each seniority in that capability. So we were using this for growing, like I said, for training, but then we also reflected in the hiring. So all the candidates were already calibrated with the existing team. So we knew that from the first day or day zero in the organization, like everybody had the same bar. And another problem that we had in the tech industry. So the roles or the seniorities are not very consistent across the board. So probably you know that in some companies you are growing with time. In other companies, maybe you need to deliver more to prove yourself. Or maybe in a very small startup, you can be a CTO, but maybe in a big organization, you're an engineering manager. And we cannot have this inconsistency also inside the organization. So for that, like we define these roles and this seniority just to make sure that everybody has the consistency inside the company. And why is also important? Because we are also having internal moves inside the company. So people are moving, I don't know, from real estate to motors or from autos to motors. Like they're moving also inside the organization based on their need or their passion at that moment. So we wanted to make it very easy for them. Of course, another thing that people are doing, they are communicating. They are having a lot of interactions. So for that, one of the things we focused on culture. So Mark talked a lot about culture before. I will just walk you briefly to it. We want them to have very much flexibility. So we adopted Agile, but then everyone is empowered to make it as they wish. And we wanted to have transparency on everything, on code, on documentation, on data, so people are also feeling empowered to act on whatever they want, to take on projects and really deliver on them. But how can we have a consistent culture? Because right now we have blended ways of working. So we have people that are working from home, other people that are working from offices. We have distributed team in different countries around the globe. And then we also have the diversity. And we know that this is something that is bringing us a strength, having a lot of diversity. But in the organization, it means that you will need to have like one consistent culture that you can call it your own. There's something that we can live by. And we looked on what we are having, and then we defined some leadership behaviors that really represent us. So again, when the team is very small, you can do it like very natural because you have these interactions on the day-to-day basis. But when you have all these constraints that we have nowadays, you really, really have to be intentional about, and you have to put an effort on what you want to achieve and how you want to grow it over time. So that's why it's very, very important really to write it down and to make it very, very specific. Then again, with technology, because yes, we are engineers, we wanted to make sure that everybody has a way to scale very easily, like in teams or also in technology. So for that, for example, we adopted team topologies to design our teams for scale, or a C4 model for transparency, for documentation, or a cloud solution to reduce complexity for the engineers so they can be focusing on the real customer problems. And then, for example, also on CI/CD to ease the deploy and really to reduce the need of alignment between the teams. But then how do we design the platform? Again, what's the constraint? We have scale. We want to give the people, the teams autonomy. And then we also want to increase the mastery on the team's domains. I think that Mark already explained this about the Conway's law, because yes, organizations who design systems are constrained to produce designs that are copies of communication structures of this organization. So we had to design also the product in the same way that you are designing the team. So this is a reflection of the team. So that's why we had to go with microservices, because we wanted people to have autonomy and we wanted them to have like the ownership on the topics. Back in the days when I joined, we worked on a monolith, and I think this is not a surprise, because if the whole IT team is 15 people, it's very easy to work on something that is very, very tight together. The other approach is that we are data-driven. And here I would like to quote one of my colleagues, like, yes, we are data-driven, we are not data-blind. Because also Einstein was saying that everything that can be counted does not necessarily count, or everything that counts cannot necessarily be counted. But we try to make the best out of it. So we are taking data from the team, from our systems, but also from the individuals. Because one of the things that we want to achieve is excellence in software delivery. But how can we do it? Because we want to benchmark ourselves against the industry. We want to optimize for team performance, but then we also want to target practices and capabilities. So for that, we decided to use something that already exists in the industry, so the DevOps report for the DevOps research and assessment. This is a years of research that it continues to be done annually on a lot of professionals worldwide. And this examines capabilities, practices to drive software delivery, operational, and organizational performance. And this is just like a note on how they are measuring the teams. So they put the teams in 4 buckets. So low performers, medium performers, high performers, and elite performers. And one thing that we saw also in this graph is as long as you're measuring yourself, you start to get better. So you see like over time, the elite started to be better. And this is also where we are. And some of the things that we are measuring, it's deployment frequency. And to be in the elite, we have to be able to deploy on demand and multiple times per day. The lead time for change, so the time that it takes for the code to reach production, it takes less than 1 hour. The mean time to restore from an incident, from an outage, it needs to take less than 1 hour because yes, we failed, but we have to recover fast. And the change failure rate, so the total number of failed deploys that had to be reverted or had to be like a quick hot fix, they need to be less than 15% of the total deployments that we have. And as I said, we are deploying at least once per day, so that means like a lot. But then also when we are looking at technology and what we are doing, we care about something else. So we chose flow for diseases, but the idea was we look at what kind of work we are doing. Are we working on legacy? Are we working on new stuff? Because this is a good indicator on where we are putting our people. And how do we collaborate? And how do engineers collaborate is through pull requests. And again, we are taking this data also from here. This is something that actually it's not the benchmark is not with the industry, but it's with ourselves. So we can see over time if you are doing better or worse, if our actions really have an impact on the team. But then, how do we know that we are taking the decision that we are taking are also put into practice? So we have a compliance tool that scans all the repositories and they can make reports for all the teams and for all the services that they own. So whenever we are adding something new, maybe like we are making like a new decisions, we are putting this data inside this tool, we are scanning, and then we see what is the grade of each team. So we know exactly like where do we have to put an effort in the future, where do we have to invest, so we don't accumulate technical debt for the future. How do we know how the team is doing? Again, when you have a small team, maybe it's easy because you have the luxury of talking directly with all the individuals. But when the team starts to be very, very big, you don't have it anymore. So for that, we have to run surveys. So for example, we're running engagement surveys with very detailed questions, and then we make actions based on the scores that we have. I'm very happy that this year the Portuguese team office where the majority of my team is actually got the Great Place to Work certified this year. So well done for them. And the final approach is that we want to keep it simple. And why do we want to keep it simple? It's because we want to enable decision making. So we want to make people to be able to make decisions in a very, very easy way. And we want them to make lots of decisions. But for that, we have to set up some rules, we have to simplify around it. So we simplify around tech or around the communities or about documentation. And how do we simplify the choosing of technology? Because when you have lots of people, you need a centralized view where everybody can have access to it. We also want to prevent the stack to become a fruit salad because then it's going to be super, super hard to manage it over time. So imagine somebody joining, writing a service in a language that they love, then leaving after 2 years, and then you are stuck there with something that you cannot operate. But then we also want people to get context on the past and current decision, because one of the things that we are doing, we are challenging ourselves. So we are challenging each other. Whenever somebody new is joining, they're challenging the decision that we had in the past. And that's why we have to centralize them. So for that, we put in place a technical radar. So we have here described all the languages, frameworks, platform techniques, services, everything that the teams are using, the ones that are adopting, that they are putting on hold, the ones that are on trial. So this is very visible and transparent to everyone. I was talking about decision, but how do we really document our engineering decisions? So we are using requests for comments. Again, it's coming from the community because the majority of the decisions that we are making, they are bottom up because we want to make sure that the people that are making the change are the ones that are really working on that. So the engineers are writing the RFCs. They need to provide the context of what is the issue that they're trying to solve. They have to provide what is the possible decision or the advised decision, so what is the change that they're proposing to make, and also what's the consequence. So what becomes maybe more easier or maybe more difficult if we are implementing this change. There are lots of companies that are using RFC as a planning process, so OLX is just one of that, but it's a common practice nowadays. But these are just requests for comments. I didn't say that these are decisions, but how can we transform them into decisions? How can we transform them like very clearly into something that we can record? For that, we put up together a condo crew. So condo comes from condominium, like think about like a block of apartments, each one of you own one space, but then you also have some common ground that maybe you need to take some decision together. So for that, we chose some group of engineers that have diversity on opinions, expertise, and the network. So their main mission is to transform these requests for comments into architecture decision records. So for that, they need to be able to get the right context for the decision. They need to co-author the decision, so they have to be really to stand up and stand for the things that they are doing. And then also they need to build very strong connections with the engineering community, so they can also perpetuate these decisions onwards. The other thing is that we figured out is people don't know exactly what is their role into making a decision. So for that, we also put together a matrix that is facilitating this. So we called it like just a racing metrics for decision making. So you have each letter represents who is responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed to make a decision. So you can read it on the horizontal or on the vertical. So on the horizontal, we are looking like what type of decision we have to make. So at a team level, maybe like on a tribe level, so multiple of team, or maybe like in the motors organization, or maybe European organization. And then all the roles that we mapped up in the organization. So from engineers to managers, heads of staff engineers, or group of communities of practice. So whenever they have to, for example, we have to make a decision inside the team. So one engineer, they can look here and say, okay, I can be responsible of making it. So they are going to take ownership. They don't have to consult anyone else. They're just going to make the decision. Or they are looking and they see who they need to consult or inform. So again, this is very much simplifying their work. So my main takeaways are these. So when we are growing when we are growing our organization, we have also to help grow also the team, the processes, the product behind. And how can we do it? By looking at the team. How can we do it is looking at people first, because motivated individuals can embrace change. Being data-driven, because we want to make informed and actionable decisions. We want to keep it simple, because we have to set ground rules, processes, and team interactions to enable the decision-making. So that's why the team-driven development is a foundational for excellence. So we are around here. My colleague Carlos and Aniela are around, so just come by and say hi. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Aniela. Fantastic talk. Thanks for sharing your leadership wisdom with us and helping us all build powerful and strong teams. Thank you so much.
Thank you.